What'd you think about the Eagles game?
Oh boy, I don't know if I want to talk about that Eagles game.
I gotta believe that Matthew Vanderpool would crush the Eagles. That's what I'm saying.
Single-handedly.
Yep. And he would just finish him off.
Wouldn't stand a chance.
No. Oh, hey everyone. Hope you enjoyed the cyclocross this weekend. We sure did. And we are here to continue talking live on Facebook. What are we talking about?
We're talking about threaded fasteners, different styles of joints, and what that all means to us as mechanics, and how we can maybe adjust our techniques to do a better job.
Right, and check us out last week for some basics. We set up what a thread is. We talked about riding up the slope and some interesting aspects of thread. We're going to take that and apply it to actually tightening things, what goes on in there. But I think we have an exciting announcement. We had some guesses, and they were fantastic. We said on the Giant here, on the Live, how many threaded pieces do we have? There
was quite a few close people in this
really
contest.
Close. And we have a winner that we will announce soon, but to build tension, which is what it's about, we're going to show you a little magic trick here. So I've got, here we go. This is
got the magic fluid over here.
This is an M6 thread, it's nominally 6 millimeters, and the corresponding nut, the wrench, would be a 10 millimeter, but the thread's a 6. Easy, look at that, it goes on there easy. So I want some drops of the magic. He's going to put a little magic fluid on here.
Ooh, that's a lot.
Plenty there, tap that around. And I'm going to put this on. So we have a fluid, it's going to go on. And it still turns easy. Does that turn easy to you?
Super easy.
Super easy, super easy. So what we've installed here, let's have a quick peek at the bottle.
Yeah, let's check it out. Look at our TLR1.
That's right.
Thread locking.
We're going to get to that later. This will sit right there. So you at home, keep an eye on that. Make sure that we don't touch it and switch it out, because we might do that. We'll see what happens at the end of our show. But back to the big prize. Here it is. Let's go for the number. Let's see what it was. 170.
It's quite a few fasteners.
That
on
is.
A single bike.
And that is our best guess, being the judges. That's what we're going with. So we're going to go, I think 169, didn't he have?
Yeah, he had 169, off by one.
Yes.
One.
Michael, you. This is going out to you. Michael Kirwan, or I would bet it's Michael Kirfan, Kirwan. Get us an address. Address is?
video@parktool.com.
That's
and
right.
Send your mailing address to
And then
us.
we'll get you this hat right here. Let's put that back in so he knows that we had one more than you. Very good. On with the show. What are threads doing again? We have lots of different things.
They're holding things together, they're
right.
clamping things, they're keeping them in place.
Don't want pedals to fall off, it's a thread. We don't want our...
Brakes, you don't want your levers rolling all over.
That's right. Derailleur, we don't want this falling off. We don't want these falling off. So they do many things, but they hold things together all the time.
Not all the time. It's interesting. What do these do?
They're threaded. They must be holding, they're holding the adjustment together.
Yeah, this is an adjustment screw.
Yeah.
So it doesn't actually join two things together,
Right.
so therefore it's not a joint.
Right, not a joint, but still a threaded fastener. So the two types of fasteners that we're worried about on a bike, we're going to call a hard joint and a soft joint.
Should we play the hard joint, soft joint game? Hard joint.
Hard joint, for sure. We've got
Soft joint.
you are squeezing, it's a clamp, most of your clamps.
This is full of them. Soft joint.
But-
What do we got here? Ooh, hard joints for sure.
To the frame, hard joint, brakes held together,
Hard joint.
you bet. This cap holds the reservoir on it. Underneath this
does.
is a gasket, a rubber gasket.
That gasket makes this a soft joint.
That's right. So not metal, butted up metal directly. So on the bike, what do you think is the most critical, or what do we see the most of? Hard or soft?
I'm going to say soft.
Soft, pretty darn common. They're both important, but I think the softer ones are where we really tend to get in trouble. We tend to get in trouble.
That's where our torque wrenches are really going to come into play, as the soft joints.
That's right. That's right. So let's talk about what goes on in our joint. This is an important part. As we were just talking, the horse and the cart. Are you going to front wheel drive or the other way, going to push the cart? It's important to understand what the joint and the component's doing, how it's held. We want to think about tension. Yeah, that's where our mind should be. Then torque is going to give us that, achieving what we want.
So it's really harnessing the horse and the carriage.
That's right. It's joining what the achievement that you want. You don't want the pedal to fall off. You're going to achieve that by getting the right tension, and that can be done joining the two with the torque wrench. So possible without it, certainly, but we'll get to that. So a very important thing all mechanics need to understand, of course, properties of material, some basic properties. What does this stuff feel like? How does it stretch and bend, or does it stretch and bend? So we want to see that. Here's a good example here. This is a 1/4-inch thread, 1/4 by 20.
Yep.
So audience, I'm going to go real steady. Now watch in the middle here. Now watch it stretch.
Yeah.
I was pulling.
I think we got it.
I
think we got some stretch out of that.
We maybe got, maybe not much. Okay. We're kind of kidding, but we're really not. So if we can look at different materials, here's this funny spoke, a very soft piece of steel, it appears. Let's see what happens here. Whoa. Yeah, and it comes back. So materials flex, they flex some, and then we relieve the pressure, it comes back to its original shape.
It's a little bit elastic.
Elastic.
Has elasticity to it.
That's right. This one has a lot of elasticity. If we keep going and just cranking and cranking tighter, what do you think is going to happen, Truman?
I've got my guess in my head.
Ow! Oh, my spoke broke. My crank arm bolt broke.
Got the small end of the spoke.
That's right. I get my wish. I get the bigger. So, yes, we can exceed that. Now, we can actually chart this out. The stress that we're putting on it, right, versus the strain, how it's deforming a strain
Should we
curve.
take a look?
Let's do it. I'm going to grab it. And
All right.
how do we do math? With a chart. Now,
So let's,
stress.
this is going to be our rubber band.
Rubber band.
Pretty consistent, very low stress.
And pow.
Breaks. That is
Right
done.
there.
Here we've got some steel up to,
Oh, pow.
except for this would be way over here.
Yep. So we're going. This is the good part of, this is where we want to work. When we're working with torque wrenches, we want to be in this nice straight section. If we didn't get our torque wrench and we just grabbed it and just tight as we possibly could with the big wrench, ow, you're going to be up here. Mm-hmm. And this can be very short, sometimes longer, and then you're off the cliff. You're off the cliff.
We call this the working limit of the,
That's right.
the thread.
I call it the happy zone.
Mm-hmm.
The bolt is happy. Let's show you.
There is a range.
Exactly. There is a range, and we'll get to torque, and we're going to talk about how tight should I tighten something. It really never should be an exact figure. It's hard to deliver on that exact figure for number one, but there's always an acceptable range. Too loose, things
Too
fall.
tight?
They
Yep.
fall apart. Too tight,
They break.
They can break. Goldilocks? I think that's what we're looking
Right
for.
in the middle.
Okay.
What are some things, should we talk about things that affect the torque?
Yes, we should. Yes, we should. So the threads themselves, we need to have good threads in good shape. We should not have rust. We don't want a lot of rust.
Nope.
And
no
then
rust.
dry or lubed.
That's a big question. And then what kind, there's a lot of different kinds of lubes out there.
Right.
Which kind of lube for your specific application?
If this were the Hubble telescope bicycle, much of this we would be worried about. For a lot of purposes, grease is going to be fine. We have anti-seize compound. There's reasons to do that. And then an SAC superassembly compound, not a thread lubricant. It is a joint lubricant, not a thread. We'll get to that. So we want to get that stretch out. Oh, another magic show here. We're going to see if we can see this little tight here, if you could. So we have an M6 bolt, right? Viewers from last time, it's a 1 millimeter pitch, a nut, and just a chunk of material, and then washers on each end, and that's another thing that can affect. Washers are nice as it's a thrust bearing in essence to help reduce friction as we tighten it. So what we're going to do, I'm going to measure, I'll tell you what, we're going to tighten it first. We're going to switch it up on you. I'm going to put a wrench here and a wrench here, and we're going to start riding up that hill. Viewers from last time, you'll understand what we mean. As I tighten, we're applying stress. We are going up that curve, our stress strain curve. We're going up, up, up. Ooh, I don't think I'm strong enough to break this. But that little thread gave this bolt a wedgie, technically speaking. So we're gonna try and measure it here. And it's not even that I really care about what the number is. I'm gonna lock it down. That's what I'm doing. So that just fits there nicely. So I'm going to take the wrench. We're going to give it some relaxation. Oh, we took away the magic. Now let's see what we get here.
It doesn't fit in there.
What? What? It doesn't?
We stretched it. And we tried. Yeah.
A little bit. Just a little bit of a jiggle. If I push in, it changes. It changes in length a little bit. I should unlock that. That's what
Yeah.
There we go. Pow. Just a few hundredths now, relaxed, then longer, shorter, longer, shorter. That's an important feature. Now, that's what we would like to do.
Yep, because that's a true way to measure how much tension and how much stretch you have on that bolt, because there is the useful limit of that amount of stretch and elasticity. So.
Can we get inside our pedal and do that? No. There is a good place you can. It's right here. Grab that side. Oh, yeah, yes, it's spokes. So think of this as a bolt and a nut. Bolt and nut. Let's slide over here to a bike. And this is kind of the problem that we're seeing. Don't confuse. Can be easy or hard to turn. It means, oh, the bolt is tight or loose. But they're related to each other. So we want to see that we are, if it's hard to turn or easy to turn, it's much better to have a reading of the spoke directly. Are we good here? So if I put this tool on, this is the TM1, what it's doing is it deforms or deflects. Look at that. So this is fairly loose. It gives us a low reading on the bolt, nut and bolt. This other nut and bolt in the joint here, in our wheel, in essence, it's a clamp. It's much less deflection. It's much tighter. So it would be nice to have such a tool for every part on the bike. Okay, it's more accurate than measuring resistance at the nut out here.
Because if you measured it at the nipple there, let's just talk about wheels in general. What could affect that, Calvin? Would rim, burrs on the inside of the rim?
Dirt inside the rim. We've never gotten dirt in our rims. Truman, have we?
Never. That never happens.
A lot of corrosion here. This is aluminum. It can corrode inside. If the nut and bolt are corroded, it is like someone is grabbing your hand and holding it. Rust, you would feel that it's tightening, but it's just the rust resisting it. All right, so that's why we come back to lubrication. So we talked about the properties and the idea of flex. Too much. Remember, we saw our nice straight line to working. That little part at the top where you're yielding, a nice term there is called necking. You're necking.
Up here at the top.
Oh, I'm choking off. Now, let's see if we can get a nice tight shot right here. We can see this bolt here. This is right on the edge of the cliff here. So we have normal threads, and you can see where, gee, the pitch there got greater. It's an adjustable pitch bolt.
Yeah, that's what you want in a bolt, is an adjustable pitch.
It's also thinner here. So one little more turn, one more piece of straw on the old camel.
That would be right here.
There we go, broken.
We have a broken one.
It's gonna break. So we don't want to get to that point.
No.
We want to stick within it. All right. So this is another good reason for a torque wrench. Right. So what torque wrench is, again, what we're trying to achieve with our end game is tension in the joint. All right. We achieve it with turning, with torque, turning it, but it's the tension within the joint.
Because as, you know, it's kind of a point to touch on is, as you're using it, I think a pedal's a good one. As you're using this, you're putting tension, you're putting force on this.
With your massive quads and your legs, you're really smashing down on that.
Yeah, and so the goal of the torque and the tension that we're going to be putting on it is to be greater than the force that you're putting onto the pedal.
Yeah.
If you have more force on the pedal than you have the pedal into the crank arm here, then it'll start to walk its way out.
That's right.
And like we talked about last time, threads like to go
downhill. We want to loosen. So let's go back to this. There's a nice mathematical equation to estimate this. Let's not do it this time. We'll save that for later. So we don't want, we know that we have some pressure here. All right, we have this great rider that is riding and is putting some pressure on here. We're going to arm wrestle them by doing torque here, hence our torque wrench. So grab the crank from the rider, install here. How much am I going to tighten this? Well, left-hand thread for one. Audience, how much? 30 Newton meter?
I think that sounds good.
So throw out some questions there as we go, audience, if this is doing you any good. So we set our torque wrench. That's a resistance on here. And again, it would be nice if we knew what's happening on the inside, but we're trusting with correct thread preparation and with turning it, we're going to achieve that and at least fit within our window. So here, I'm turning. That little click, that resonance tells me stop. Yeah. And quick deviation, inappropriate.
That's going to give you a false reading on your
That's
torque
right.
wrench. You need to hold it at the
handle. At the handle. Seems kind of funny, but why does it know? There's actually a lever here, and there's another fulcrum here. So you do want to be down here. You're tricking the wrench by moving up. That's on the click style. So now we know that is loaded with force. It can be several thousands of pounds force in here. So it's as if we're running alongside our rider, holding that pedal in with the
because of
torque.
that force that incline plane allowed
That's
us
right.
to give to that joint.
That's right. So again, some examples here. This is a nice one. Several. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
7.
That's right. So here we have the chain ring bolts. Bam. That would be
Hard joint.
hard joint. But here we're pushing the crank up on the spindle.
That's a soft joint.
Expansion. We're counting on this expanding, the bolt holding it tight. Pedal, we talked about.
Yep, hard joint for sure.
And then bottom bracket, this is an older school one. One side threads against the frame, bam, tighten it, hard joint. Here, more of a clamp. This does not actually hit the frame, soft joint on this side. So there's a mix of all of them.
Combination.
And again, the tricky ones can be the softies. And we
Yep.
have a good example. Let's grab this one here.
Yeah.
for them.
We got a carbon handlebar, aluminum stem. We have four joints right on the top here, all of them soft. This is one of the most crucial, joints on your bike.
For safety.
Yeah, you don't want to get it hurt. You don't want your handlebars to fall off. You don't want to break your bolts.
That's right.
You don't want to roll your handlebar. This is a crucial part of your bike.
This is an interesting change in the industry. We have an older school bar here. Okay? It's a flat bar given. So this is a 25.4 diameter here, right? So it's 1 inch. So the circumference is what we're clamping on. So circumference, well, audience, you figure that out, I'll post it on there. What's the circumference of this 1 inch here? Why did they go these big fat bars? There's a lot more grabbing to be done.
A lot more grabbing.
Yes.
A lot more holding power.
Surface area.
Yep.
We like that. So I'm going to be a stem. I'm holding here tight. And Truman's over here twisting, and I need more twisting load here. There's a limit to what you can do with this surface area. So one way to pick up some grip here, some little bit of grip.
The SAC1.
This is little silica pieces inside some carrier, basically a mineral oil, and that's going to help bite. And that's an especially good thing in our seat post.
Seat posts, handlebars.
Yeah.
In some cases, have you seen it used for, like brake levers or shifter straps?
We can see even on here, they've given some texture. Bolts, we talked about generating power. We can look at the torque on it. We divide that by the diameter, multiplied by the coefficient of friction, and you get some big numbers. A little bolt can generate a lot of pressure. It can generate so much pressure, it can do damage to the component. So you have to think not just about what you're looking at the component, what's the weak link of the joint that's going to set the torque, the correct torque for what you're working on.
This isn't always the problem, breaking your bolts.
No.
A lot of times it's...
Right. If it's a carbon fiber, it may be crushing. It may have split the plastic body. The bolt is more than happy to supply any kind of load that you want to give it. But think downstream. Always look a little bit downstream of what's going on. So some more thread preparation. Let's continue on that.
A couple questions.
Excellent.
If I could butt in here. What if you don't have a torque wrench?
That then practice. My joke on Carnegie Hall, practice, practice, practice. And some of that practicing is probably breaking bolts. It's a story of me as a young, I was once, this would be 78 maybe. One of my first bikes working on and tightening up that pinch bolt and broke off that bolt, bam. Oh, terrified. Boss comes over, what did you do? Well, I got it tight, boss. Did not have a torque wrench. It was a little M5 derailleur pinch bolt, and I didn't want it to slip. Too tight, and I learned. So sometimes that's what you can do. Perceived effort is the other concept, but you're going to have to understand load and weight and have some scaffolding or way to hang your knowledge on. As an example, we'll use inch pounds because it's easier than a Newton meter. We want 200 inch pounds. 200 inch pounds. That is a 1 inch wrench. 1 inch wrench, not long. 200 pounds of pressure, or choking up. He's going to choke up to 1 inch. 200 pounds effort turning in a circle. That's torque, right? Which is I should give this away, I guess. One of my jokes for the mechanics. Audience, do you torque every nut and bolt you work on? And mechanics say, oh, yes.
Of course.
Yes, okay. Well, they should. Some say, no, I don't use the torque wrench. Torquing is turning it with a load. That is torque. There's torquing, and then there's measuring torque. Two related things, but two different things. So yes, If you turn the nut and bolt, you did torque it. Did you measure it? That's a different thing.
Yep.
So you don't have a torque wrench, you need to practice. This is why we work on other people's bikes. And then getting a concept of load, pressure over a certain distance. So 200 inch-pounds, let's go back to that. I now have a 10-inch wrench. 200 divided by 10, I did this math out, is
Oh, man.
20 pounds of effort, 20, which is a pretty light bike. Oh, I'm showing my age, 20 pounds. So moderately heavy carbon bike, picking it up. So that would be kind of the effort to take that. It would be a 200 inch pound load. So
Sometimes
Good question.
It does take, using a torque wrench a few times to be able to torque without using them. And then there's some
as a
crucial,
teaching tool, as a teaching tool,
Exactly.
absolutely.
and there are some critical places that I would, strongly encourage you to use a torque wrench.
Right. There was a second question?
Yeah, kind of leading into your next topic.
Yes, Mr. Monitor.
Are there any threads on a bike that shouldn't be prepped?
Oh.
Right. Certain things should be left clean, and that's where checking manufacturer specifications is often important.
It's extremely important. I was just looking for this. I was doing some research and looking through stem manufacturers, and not every. There are some that say do not. So I would strongly encourage you
Right.
to look at your stem manufacturer or any manufacturer spec to see if that joint should take lube.
Right. And then what kind of prep is prep? Here's an example. Probably you can see that where you are. This is an anaerobic, or aerobic Loctite. This thread locker. This has been put on here. This gunky stuff here is going to cause resistance as we turn. Okay, so pretty common in a lot of brake work. That has been prepped. If we're seeing this, grease, no. And this actually does provide a little bit of lubrication separating the surfaces as you tighten it. So in this case, not greasing.
And as you use, a fastener with an aerobic compound on it, you'll start to wear that compound off.
Yes.
So in that situation, you'll then need to know what kind of compound to use on it. So you want to take into account what materials you're working with. Different materials react differently with each other. So it's good to keep that in mind.
Here's so grease. Grease is good in a lot of places for, not our grease. Grease is good in a lot of places. This is just our PPL1. So again, checking the manufacturer, possibly not here, but a pedal thread certainly. Check with the manufacturers, very, very good. And then there's another one that you should know about that I like a lot.
Yep.
Our ASC. It is messier.
Yep, it stays around quite some time.
And that is the advantage. So this provides lubrication, and this provides lubrication today. I put the pedal in today, everything's fine. Next year,
That's still
and
there.
next year, and the stains on your shirt,
They're sticking around.
well, you got like extra heat and
Yeah.
a little hot, use the hot. But it's much more durable, NEC's compound, so basically.
Is there materials that maybe this would be really good on? For
Yes, dissimilar metals especially.
Yep.
So a steel frame and an aluminum bottom bracket, a threaded bottom bracket, situations like that. Titanium.
titanium, it's crucial.
Yes, you're keeping the surfaces separate. All right. So I'm titanium. He is aluminum. SAC is filling the hole and keeping us tight but apart. So that's good stuff. Now this stuff, all right, is little teeth in a tube. Okay, I put a little out here. Probably can't. I can feel a little grittiness This is the world's worst ball bearing grease. Crunch, crunch, crunch. Do not use the SAC2 in bearings. But in a static situation, we're gripping a seat post. And that's a seat post is a stem is good. The seat post, you've all seen a seat post in a frame. Very interesting thing. Used to be that the binder manufacturer would give a torque spec. Does it really matter though? That's because they didn't make the frame. And then if the frame is a little bit oversized for the seat post going in, well, that makes it even more complicated.
Yeah, it changes the amount of tension needed
Yes.
to hold that post in place.
Or we have a frame with a very rough interior. The next down the line is a very smooth, buffed interior. It's going to take different torque. So in those cases, simply obedience to the torque wrench without wiggling it and testing the saddle may not be a good idea. Remember about what you're trying to achieve with the torque. So we looked at this, but we also have the liquid, and that's what we were playing with earlier. Let's look at our TLR1. It's a Threadlocker Liquid, which is lubricating.
Yep. So as you put it together, this is a lubricant. But then when it, maybe it dries, and then it'll actually hold that into place. It'll keep it in place. Even if it's a soft joint, it doesn't take much torque, or it can't take much torque.
That's a good point, because the bolts are best held by the tension, internal tension inside. But if we can't max it out, if we can't get high tension, for example, in the clamps, that is where the thread lock preparation becomes important, right?
Yep.
So here's a similar situation. I don't know if we can get a good zoom. I'll try and hold. I'm going to put this one on our magic holder here. And the end of this nut is a nylon ring. So that's called a nylock nut. And it doesn't help you tighten it tighter. You can tighten it the same amount, but if you can't tighten it as tight as you'd like, especially, it helps that from loosening. All right, so that nylon ring literally grips, and some spoke nipples are now also coming with that. So we have our anti-seize, we have our thread lockers, we have for the clamping, not the threads, the super assembly compound, and then just good old-fashioned grease. Oh, we forgot one more. A liquid lubricant oil. Yep, and big coarse thread.
Very useful.
Well, and for the grease, a little tiny one. Water bottle cage. About a water bottle cage bolt. A little fine thread. You can wick some of that in there. It's going to be fine.
Yep.
So smaller threads especially, the oil is going to provide plenty of lubrication for the tightening.
But it's not going to stick around for a very long time.
That's right. All those stream crossings.
Yep. I'll start to wash it away, and then you'll either need to reapply it or maybe start thinking about a different kind of lubrication.
Very good. Very good. So sometimes things go bad and get damaged.
Yes.
Yeah. So the thread, we have our two threads again, an internal and an external. The internal thread, if it's damaged, for example, in a crank,
Don't forget your thread locker that you started at the beginning.
right? That's going to be right at the end. Have you touched that, Truman?
I haven't touched it.
Viewing audience, did you get in here? I don't think we had the studio audience. So if there is some threads left, you can re-tap. So re-tapping will help repair threads. It does not reinstall material. Yeah. If thread has fallen on the floor, this isn't going to put it back. So there are limits to thread repair.
If the thread, picture this as a tooth. If the thread is like this, or maybe mushroomed like this will help restructure that thread.
But if the thread is like this, and there ain't nothing, you're out of it. So
it's new time.
Okay, so we're going to look at our magic. So here we go. Let's see what we got here. see if this is going to turn here. I'm going to. Am I faking it? I don't think I am. You turn that.
That's pretty darn tight.
That's tight.
Yeah.
That ain't coming loose at all. Well, of course it is.
Yeah.
We get a wrench on it, it will. But what's happened here is the thread locker is setting, and it's really doing a couple of things. It's not like an Elmer's glue. That's we have to compare to our school days, of course. Elmer, it's not drying in that sense, nor like a rubber cement. As it cures, it's going to do a couple of things. It's going to harden, and it expands. And that's going to fill and tighten things in there. The more it expands, the more it hardens, the more unservice friendly we got, so-called retaining compounds or permanent thread lockers. And this one is considered service removable, right? The blue color, it's not blue just for us, it's normal wrenches will get that loose, normal wrenches, but it's going to take more resistant.
Yep.
You don't have to take extraordinary.
Don't have to heat it up or
No.
anything.
No.
Something that's interesting about some thread locker is, you know, if we had something in between here and we were really torquing that down, that's going to activate that a little bit quicker, isn't it, Calvin?
Yeah.
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 It's going to be pulling the air out of the
Right.
material itself.
It won't cure. Inside the bottle, it's going to stay liquid.
Yep.
The air keeps it from setting. So, okay. So I guess the last thing I want to talk about, unless there's more questions, is the slip style, the adjustable torque device. Okay. This is an adjustable torque wrench here. It can do many different settings. It has a resonance or a click, but what this one does, it slips when it gets to a certain torque. So these are metal interiors here. We have 4, 4.5, 5, 6 on for our settings. So it reaches the load, and then it just click, click, click goes around and will not add more than that. So it's a limiting. It's a very nice little limiting tool. So places appropriate for this, and places appropriate for the big wrenches. So when you're worried about really over tightening and crushing something, this is really the way to go. It's not going
For
to.
handlebars,
Yeah, handlebars,
seat posts
the
sometimes.
more gentle torques.
Yep.
Yep.
And this wrench has a very long usable.
Yeah, because of the
usable life.
metal interiors, if
Yep.
we do say so ourselves.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, 'cause-
okay.
yeah.
Audience, have you felt the tension yet? Have you felt it?
I have some questions for you.
Excellent.
First, torque to a calibration.
Yes,
When
that's,
and
yep,
how?
yep. So moving little things with little moving parts can use calibration. So when is send it in. We can recalibrate here, the nominal fee. There's other service centers out there that also do calibration on wrenches. So what happens inside of this mechanism, there's a spring. And the spring is as you tighten it, it's compressed tighter, and that makes it harder for this head to flip. And then we change the linkages inside just slightly to change the compression of the spring to calibrate it. So that's something that's done in here. Or again, there's different service centers around. Find them on the internet. So these can be calibrated. And this one we can recalibrate here in-house using a strain gauge to see that they're repeating correctly.
Good question I've seen about this is, can it be used in both directions?
That is a really good question.
Yeah.
That is a really good question. What are we saying on that?
I'm not 100% sure right now.
Good one, audience. We're going to, or good one, Truman.
Yeah.
Let's go and see. Now, fortunately, most little threads are a right-hand thread.
Yep.
And this is for the smaller threads, but we'll have to look that up and we'll put that in the comments. So,
Can I try and get you in trouble?
yeah.
Yeah.
Do manufacturers typically underspec torque ratings for components?
No, I would not assume that. My favorite, I better be careful.
Yeah.
If you look at a torque range, it should be a range. And if you look at the companies that have done their homework, they're going to give you at least this, no more than that. That's true. The torque wrenches, again, by themselves, can't really deliver 100% accuracy. You're losing some of the tension and the friction, and there's also a range that will keep it on the bike. There's a range. If it's too loose, the derailleur falls off. If it's too tight, it's going to pull out threads. That window should be seen, but no, I would not. Component companies are not looking for more complaints or warranty items.
Yep.
Truman.
I would say that they've done their research, they've done their homework. Those, you should be within their range. Yeah, I don't know if we want to go into any further than that, but
Yeah, let's go ahead and open the can a bit.
can of worms might be like, what if?
But you're a professional or you work on a lot of bikes. Still, this is the lingua franca. The torque wrench is the language that we should be speaking because it lets you first make your own notes and notice, gee, I tightened that torque wrench 40 Newton meter and it kept coming loose. That's what then you're noting it, aha. So you're tracking your own use, what you're seeing. So then, unless you know otherwise, I would trust the manufacturer. If you're seeing things come back loose, if you're seeing specific problems, then I would make changes, but still basing it on the torque. So
those changes you could make slight torque adjustments, possibly.
or preparation.
Preparation would be a good one. That's where
That's
you can
right.
make a lot of changes.
So this is where the good chef keeps track of the recipe and the professional mechanic keeps track of what's going on. So.
In a recommended torque range,
Mhm.
where should I aim? It's from 4 to 6. Do I go to 5?
There's another good one. That's a good one. Normally 5. I'm going to go back to the seat post. Go low.
As low as you can get away with holding whatever you're trying to hold together, whether it be a handlebar and a stem, seat post and a seat, as low as you can go, while with retaining it in place and keeping it where it's supposed to
And
be.
the testing's the hard part. And the seat post and stem are good examples. So the seat post, we don't want it to twist, okay? As soon as it's not twisting left and right, you're really done. Now, the handlebar, you'll know when it's loose, when you hit that bump and it slips. So that's a difficult one. On the stem, on the handlebar, I would probably go to the upper end of the range, seat post, lower end of the range. And some of this is going to come from experience and talking to your local independent professionals.
Yeah, and this one, it's not just thread preparation. As we talked about earlier, using a compound in between the two surfaces
Right.
can hold this a little bit more into place.
That's right, which is nice. Some of the surfaces, again, this is why they're putting this rough surface here to give it some bite.
Because you don't want to go over those specs, because then it'll get more crushing.
Crush, that's right.
Yeah.
The carbon especially doesn't like to be clamped. Carbon does not like clamping, so.
Yeah.
Yep,
Oh, I had a question. Why is it important to keep a torque wrench at 0 when you're storing it?
good,
That's an excellent
Yeah.
question.
that's right. So
We already talked about what's in there.
that's right, a spring. Now, I would say if you back it down and relax it, that's good. Does it have to be exactly 0? If you had this thing run up, now I'm at 25 Newton. If I come down, I'm 10, I'm 5, that's going to be fine. Does it have to be exactly 0? If you back it down, I'm happy. Okay,
Yeah.
I would be satisfied with that. But
So it's kind of,
always, yeah,
it's the spring, what happens is the spring will start to get memory. It's
Right.
like the springs in a car, they
Yeah.
start to get worn out. And because that load is continually on them.
right.
Where relieving that load will maintain that spring, maintain that length of the spring, so it won't need to be recalibrated.
Yep, good point. Back it off. Very good. So, this has been a lot of fun out there in Bike World. Thank you for your attention and your torque. I hope this has helped. We don't know. We'll see you on YouTube.
Yeah,
Yeah.
soon.
That's right.
Soon enough. We'll see you again.
Okay, and let us know the hat address.
Hat address for who's got the hat again?
Michael,
Michael. Michael K.
thanks.